Hello and welcome to another firefly beading tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how I make a multi-strand necklace using cones and in this one a toggle finish. You're going to need a few strands, maybe 3 to 5 strands, and then these are great, the bead stoppers. I'm also using my a little bit thicker wire, the 018 for beading, and a few spacer beads. The first thing we're going to do is kind of come up with a pattern. So I'm just going to open one strand here and start stringing everything on. And I'm probably going to do 3 beads and 1 spacer and just continue that pattern all the way down. So I've got the last few beads that were on the strand, which are not 3, so I can't finish out my pattern. So I think what I'm going to try to do, I've got one strand here that I've already done that does end in 3, so let me count how many patterns I have on here. And I want to make sure that same number is over here. So I need just one more. So actually, I'm going to make these match. So what I'm going to do, I don't have enough beads, so I'm going to take probably one here. I'm going to put this spacer on. So basically, you're just trying to even everything out. So it's going to end kind of like this. And that's what I'm going to have to do to my other side as well. So as you see, I'm working on the wire roll itself just to try to save on wire. So I'm going to take one of these guys and put it over here. Push everything down. I'm going to leave a few inches here. So probably cut. Just want to make sure I have enough room for crimping, so I'm going to cut right here. Well, for crimping and maybe adding on a few new beads. So let me just check. I'm going to need to add a little guy here and take one off of this and move it. And now this strand matches the other strand. So it's just as long as the other strand and has the exact same pattern as the other strand. Okay, so these are 2 matching strands. I'm going to lay them to the side. I'm going to pull out these, which are slightly bigger. So I'm going to try for the same pattern, or I can come up with something else. But either way, I want them to measure the same length. So whatever I do, I want it to be the same length as these originals. So having a ruler handy is great. So I'm just going to pinch my sides together, make sure my beads don't move, and then lay it on this ruler. And it looks like it's about 17 inches or so just at it. So that's what I want to get similar to. So go ahead and play around with the pattern on this third one. Or you could use the same beads and the same pattern for whatever. I like kind of mixing up sizes now and then. And measure as you go. So I've got to take off a few of these. And then, let's see, so that's closer. So to make this work, I'm going to adjust this end like that, and that should be good. So now we want to kind of test the cone, and you can kind of play around with looks and everything, but remember, whenever you add your crimps, it's going to add some extra space. So this is just approximation by adding these guys on. So I liked the way this looked, but I'm not sure if adding this many small guys to the end is going to make a difference. I mean, I might have to remove some of them. So you've got your cones that you're thinking of using, and you want to be able to fit some beads. That's why I use smaller beads on the end to fit inside the cone. And then you want to length the wire, maybe 2 to 3 inches here, probably 3 inches. We're just going to create a loop on the bottom. So I do this by pushing away using my round nose pliers, bringing back, and then going around. So it looks kind of like this. But to secure this loop, I'm going to coil my wire just a bit around. And this doesn't have to look fancy. It's going to be going in your cone, remember. Just cut off that wire carefully. You don't have to smash the end down. It's okay if the tail sticks out a little bit. And it might be helpful to keep it from going through the hole here. So essentially this is what's going to happen. It's going to be sucked up inside the cone. So here we are. We're going to test this amount of seed beads. Kind of see what it looks like. And again, this is approximation. It's a lot of trial and error with these. So that looks like too many, because remember the crimp is going to take up some space too. So I'm going to take off a bit of these. It's easier to take off than put on. Sometimes you can add a small bead in here to keep everything from moving around. Oh, that one's too small. Went right through the hole. Okay, we don't want to do that one. So maybe these bigger ones. Sorry, I got distracted here. I just want to see. That should not go through. So this is going to add a little bit of space. I might not like it, but let's just see. Oh, yeah, you can still see a lot with this one as well. So I think I'm going to take that off and then a few. I think I'm going to only leave 3 extra little beads on the end. That should be plenty good. I'm not sure if I'm liking this cone either, but we'll see. So here are my crimp beads. They're just little 2x2, 2mm by 2mm crimp beads, tubes. I'm going to take one and I'm going to put it on. Take my wire, thread that on as well, and then I'm going to bring my wire back through my crimp bead. And I'm going to bring it up until there's just a very small little loop. So you see, you don't want to go too tight where you're putting too much tension on your Beadalon wire. You want enough room for the wire to swing in between. So just a small loop. You're going to go from the back end of your crimp pliers. And I'm using crimping pliers here because I'm trying to fold my crimp. So I'm starting in the back crevice here, spinning around, and then folding it over with the front crevice. So normally I could just crimp with my chain nose pliers, but I want my crimp to be small so it could fit into the cone. And I'm going to pull everything up, well, just a few beads up, and then cut the tail off. Excuse me, and then slide everything down. And we're going to repeat another wire, so just like we did at the beginning, creating our loop, a little bit of a coil to match the other side so that we can now crimp this side. So here we go. Okay, you're going to take your crimp bead, slide on your wire, go back through the crimp bead. Now this is the opposite side, so we want to go ahead and bring up a few of our beads here. Probably going to bring up 3. Okay. Then I'm going to pull my tail and hold my wire and gently pull, just like this, till everything gets up close. And I don't want there to be a huge gap where my tail is coming out, so I'm going to try to make this work where I have a small loop that matches our other side, and hold everything tight and come in with the crimp tool. So back side first, remember? Then turn it around, then use your front crevice and continue that fold. Oops, a little blurry here, but just folding our crimp. Okay, so it looks like this, and now we're ready to cut this tail off. All right. Now we're just going to repeat this to all the sides. So this is my bigger strand, if you have a bigger bead strand, and I'm putting it on one side of my smaller bead strand. So again, just to watch this crimping process on the opposite side. So I did the one side of the strand, now I'm going to do the back side of this strand. You just want to see how important it is not to have some big gaps in between, so pull it all close. because it does take some work here to pay attention, get the fit just right. I'm just gonna kind of hold this in place. I'm not pushing anything yet, because I really don't want there to be a huge gap between my seed beads and my beginning bead right here. So just trying to get this tight and keep this tension on it so that your wire doesn't slip as you're working. So again, back side, and then front side to fold. Just like that. And then cut it off. And then this other strand I'm going to put on the opposite side so that my big bead strand is right in the middle. So I just want to make sure everything's straight across. You could go ahead and start twisting your beads and crimp them in opposite places, but I'm just keeping mine all straight across. You could make it like a cluster necklace, but the way I'm doing it is you could twist it before you put it on. Okay, so again, I'm going to test here with this bigger bead like this. Slide on my cone, and it's okay, it's a little bit wobbly. I was originally going to put 5 strands in this necklace for this cone, but for the tutorial I went ahead and just did 3 strands. So I don't know, this cone is just a little wobbly for me. Let's just try something here. Okay, let me look at it. I'm gonna actually use these flat disc beads and see if this helps at all. So I'm gonna pull this through. I think this cone is so wide it would look better with the 5 strands instead of the 3. So this helps a little bit with the wobble, but I'm still not crazy about the look. I really think this would be better with the 5 strands. So I'm gonna use the longer cones like this that have a smaller opening on the bottom, and I think it'll still work with this. So I'm just gonna add a little tiny bead on the top here. I just wanted it not to have such a big gap between the beads and the cone, so this to me fits a little bit nicer. And now we're ready to create a loop on top. So we're gonna bend away, so just like we created the loops underneath, except I'm gonna do it a double here. So I'm gonna go around and back, and then I'm gonna do the same thing, continue another loop right here. So see how I'm moving my pliers to keep them out of the way, but keep this loop consistent. And there is a bit of a tapering that happens because these are tapered pliers. But just keep an eye on that diameter of your loops before you start coiling. So now I'm just coiling down to my little top bead here. And the reason I put a bead here is just because I like the look of it. And also it keeps your wire from getting sucked back into a hole. So that should be good for now. I'm going to wait before I cut it off. I've gotten 2 coils on there. So I've got a little spacer disc at the bottom here before I slide on my wire. And then I'm going to add this little spacer bead. And again, I'm going to make my diameter of this loop the same as the opposite side. So coming around in the same zone in my pliers. Take it out. And then continue on with the second loop. And the reason why I'm doing 2 loops here is just because it'll be a bit stronger, I think, with the toggle clasp that I'm going to use. So you could start by doing your coils around with your chain nose, but I think it's nice to keep your loops stable by keeping your round nose inside of the loop as you bend your wire around, coil your wire. Okay, and make sure they match, and these look pretty good. So we're ready to snip off this. And then burnish down that little nub of wire that's sticking out that you just cut. Same thing to this side. You can hear the squirrels fighting in the background. I don't know if you can hear outside. Anyway, okay. So now we're ready to add the clasp on. I'm just showing you how you could twist it if you wanted to, or you can keep it open. But now we've got an end here, and you could put any clasp you want on here, really. Magnetic, or a toggle similar to this. Or you could even do, you know, the standard lobster claw closure. But because I'm going to be wearing this necklace, you know, facing the front, I want the clasp, you know, to kind of make a statement. So I'm going to go with this toggle. And to attach a toggle, you need rings. And then you are going to need 2 small rings, and I'll show you why in a second. So I'm going to attach my circle end first. Just open your jump ring. Slide it on, slide that guy on, and then make sure you close this flush. Okay, simple enough. Now I'm going to show you this. So I'm going to open this ring and slide on my toggle bar. Well, let's go ahead and put it on here. But watch what happens with this. And this is important for toggles. This ring is too big to bring this through, so you see. But I like the look of the ring to match the other side. So I just need to put 2 small rings on that bar itself and keep this big ring on the back side. Because I like this big ring to match the other side. So I'm going to add a smaller jump ring right here. And I'm going to actually double it up so you can use a split ring. I just think this makes it stronger, especially because when you're pulling toggles through, you're pulling kind of hard and putting a lot of pressure on that toggle bar. So this will just keep it from falling off. And now I'm going to slide these 2 on. And these smaller rings aren't as noticeable, but they're just small enough that I can, you know, simply bring my bar through and not struggle with it. So you see, they add just enough room to pull all that through, and it hangs nicely, and then it looks symmetrical on both sides. All right. And basically what you can do with this necklace is unravel it and wear it 3 strands, or you could twist it before you put it on. And this is how it looks when you wear it in the front, or you could turn this around, hide your clasp in the back, and just wear it as a solid necklace in the front. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe to our channel to learn more beading tips like these. Thanks for watching, and happy beading from us at Firefly.